Dr. Zentai's neural filaments rippled with anxiety as she watched the holographic display. The other research vessels had already engaged their quantum drives, fleeing the system as protocol dictated. But she couldn't tear her sensors away from the scene unfolding on the blue-green world below. Thousands of mechanical behemoths, tanks, her database supplied, rolled across vast plains. Flying machines screamed through the atmosphere, while massive naval vessels carved paths through the oceans. It was a display of military might unprecedented among developing civilizations. A joint military exercise, according to the intercepted communications. Research vessel contemplation. The automated council warning blared again. You are in violation of safety protocols. Evacuation is mandatory when encountering Class 7 warfare activity. Zentai acknowledged the warning with an irritated flick of her sensory appendages. Her fellow xenoanthropologists had already filed their preliminary reports. Species too volatile for contact. Recommend quarantine. But they were missing something crucial. She adjusted her sensors, focusing on a different region of the planet. In a coastal area recently devastated by what the humans called a tsunami, the same military forces were deployed in an entirely different capacity. Aircraft dropped supplies instead of weapons. Ships rescued survivors instead of conducting war games. The same machines of war were being used to preserve life. Fascinating, she whispered, her voice translator struggling with the emotion in her harmonic tones. She had studied thousands of developing civilizations, but none quite like this. Most species evolved either through aggressive competition or peaceful cooperation. These humans seemed to do both simultaneously and with equal intensity. A new alert caught her attention. Her unauthorized observations had drawn notice from the highest levels. The Galactic Council itself was demanding an explanation. Rather than flee, Zentai began composing her response. She included raw footage of both the military exercises and humanitarian operations. Her analysis focused on the duality she observed, how humans could pivot from preparing for war to preserving peace in the span of moments. Vessel contemplation. A new voice cut through her communications array. You will report to Emergency Council Session 7 Alpha immediately. Hours later, Zentai floated in the austere chamber of deliberation. The council members' bioluminescent patterns betrayed their agitation as they reviewed her findings. You violated 13 safety protocols. Administrator Vek Su pulsed sternly. Your research license should be revoked. With respect, Zentai harmonized. Traditional protocols may be inadequate for understanding the species. She activated her own holographic display, showing the military forces transitioning from exercise to rescue operations. Observe how quickly they adapt. Their martial capabilities are formidable, yes, but they're matched by their humanitarian impulses. They've developed an entire philosophical framework around rules of war, concepts to limit and control their violent tendencies. That merely proves they expect constant warfare. Another council member vibrated disapprovingly. Or, Zentai countered, it proves they're actively working to transcend their violent past. Look at their information networks. For every military development, there are thousands of debates about ethics, peace, and the responsible use of power. The council chambers hummed with agitated discussion. Finally, Administrator Vek Su spoke again. Your observations, while obtained improperly, raise important questions. We cannot ignore a species with such military capabilities. Neither can we risk hostile first contact. I have a proposal, Zentai said. Let me continue my research, officially this time. We need to understand not just their capacity for violence, but their capacity for growth. Their history of warfare might be the very thing that makes them unique and valuable to the galactic community. The chamber fell silent. The council members communed privately through their shared neural network. Zentai waited, her filaments rippling with a mixture of fear and excitement. Your proposal is approved, Vek Su finally announced. But with conditions. You are to assess not only their military capabilities but their potential for peaceful integration. We must know if humans can be more than their violent history suggests. And researcher Zentai, another council member, added, their bioluminescence pulsing with warning patterns. Be aware that if your assessment suggests this species is too dangerous, the council will vote on implementing a permanent quarantine. Choose your words carefully. As Zentai left the chamber, her mind was already racing with plans. She had glimpsed something in humanity that her colleagues had missed in their hasty retreat. Yes, their warfare was terrifying, but their capacity for compassion, their drive to help others even in the midst of military operations, suggested something extraordinary. She would need to dig deeper into their history, understand the forces that shaped them. Because her intuition told her that humanity's relationship with warfare wasn't a simple matter of violence. It was a complex journey of learning, adaptation, and perhaps most importantly, the eternal hope for peace. Research vessel contemplation. She commanded, set course for Earth observation position. We have work to do. The holographic display in Zentai's research pod flickered with scenes from humanity's past. She had spent 3 lunar cycles infiltrating Earth's digital networks, absorbing centuries of military history. Each new discovery sent ripples of distress through her neural filaments. Research log, Cycle 47. She recorded, her translator converting her harmonics into standard council format. Humans categorize their history by their wars. World War I, World War II. The Cold War. Each conflict brought unprecedented destruction and unprecedented advancement. She gestured, and new images filled the pod. Nuclear explosions bloomed like artificial suns. Cities crumbled under bombardment. Soldiers marched through landscapes scarred by combat. But alongside these scenes of devastation, other images appeared. Spacecraft launching into the stars, global communication networks, medical breakthroughs. Their pattern of development defies conventional xenosociological models, she continued. Most species advance through either cooperation or competition. Humans do both simultaneously, with war acting as a terrible catalyst for innovation. A notification pulsed. Her eye had found something new. Zentai accessed the data stream and found herself watching ceremonies. Humans gathering at monuments built not to celebrate victory, but to remember loss. Fascinating, she whispered. They build memorials to their own failures. They preserve the memory of war's cost, not just its achievements. Her research was interrupted by a priority communication from the council. Her rival, senior researcher Vexnar, had filed a formal challenge to her findings. Hours later, Zentai faced the council again. Vexnar's bioluminescent patterns radiated smugness as he presented his counter-analysis. Esteemed council members, his harmonics reverberated harshly. Researcher Zentai has been compromised. Her prolonged exposure to human military history has clouded her judgment. She sees nobility in barbarity. Vexnar projected his own findings, statistics of death tolls, weapons development, resource consumption. This species has spent more energy developing ways to kill than any civilization we've encountered. They've nearly destroyed themselves multiple times. Their planet bears the scars of nuclear weapons, chemical warfare, and ecological devastation. You're not wrong, Zentai responded calmly, but you're not seeing the complete picture. She activated her own display, showing the aftermath of various conflicts. Look what they build from the ashes of war. The United Nations, international law, humanitarian organizations. With each conflict, they develop new frameworks to prevent future wars. She zoomed in on specific examples. After witnessing nuclear devastation, they created treaties to limit these weapons. After chemical warfare, they banned its use. They learned from their mistakes. Not always quickly, not always successfully, but they learn. Pretty words, Vexnar pulsed dismissively. But the evidence shows they continue to wage war despite these supposed lessons. Because they're still evolving, Zentai countered. She displayed new images. Earth's current military forces conducting peacekeeping missions, disaster relief, and joint training exercises. Their martial capabilities are increasingly focused on maintaining peace, not just winning wars. They've developed entire philosophical and ethical frameworks around the concept of just war and military responsibility. The council chambers hummed with discussion. Administrator Vexu's patterns showed concern. Your analysis is intriguing, Researcher Zentai, but Vexnar raises valid points. We need more than philosophical observations. Show us concrete evidence that humans can be more than their violent history suggests. Zentai's filaments rippled with determination. Then let me show you something remarkable. She accessed her most recent findings. Human cultural responses to war. Art, literature, music, and poetry filled the chamber. Creative works grappling with the trauma and meaning of conflict. Most species either glorify warfare or deny its existence, she explained. Humans do neither. They face it, question it, try to understand it. Their greatest works of art often emerge from their darkest moments. They turn trauma into wisdom, horror into hope. Pretty artifacts don't negate their violent nature, Vexnar insisted. No, Zentai agreed, but they prove humanity's capacity for growth. I'm not suggesting we ignore their martial history. I'm suggesting we recognize its full complexity. Their experience with warfare has taught them lessons that our peaceful development never could. She displayed one final image, Earth's latest space exploration mission, a joint effort by former enemy nations. They're learning to redirect their competitive drive from destruction to discovery. Their history of conflict hasn't just made them dangerous. It's made them resilient, adaptable, and increasingly aware of the cost of war. The council chambers fell silent. Finally, Administrator Vexu spoke. Your research may continue, Zentai, but we require proof of your theories. If humans are as adaptable as you claim, show us how their martial experience could benefit the galactic community. As Zentai left the chamber, her neural network pinged with a priority alert. A crisis was emerging on the galaxy's outer rim, one that would soon test her theories about humanity's unique relationship with warfare in ways she never expected. The Council's emergency session erupted in chaos as the holographic displays showed another star system going dark. The Swarm Collective had devoured 3 peaceful worlds in less than a solar cycle, leaving only debris and silence in their wake. The Yith colony is gone, Administrator Vexu announced, their bioluminescence pulsing with distress patterns. 2 million sentients, just gone. The chamber filled with harmonic tones of mourning. Zentai studied the tactical displays with growing unease. The swarm's movements seemed eerily familiar. Their attacks followed a pattern she'd seen before, not in council records, but in her research on Earth's military history. Esteemed Council, she harmonized urgently. I recognize these tactics. This is hardly the time for your human obsession. Vexnar pulsed dismissively. But Zentai was already accessing her research archives. She overlaid the swarm's attack patterns with historical maps from Earth's Second World War. The similarities were undeniable. Look, she commanded, highlighting the comparison. The swarm is using what humans call blitzkrieg tactics. Rapid, overwhelming force, breaking through defenses at their weakest points, encircling and isolating enemy forces before they can respond. The council chamber hummed with agitated discussion. Administrator Vexu floated closer to examine the comparison. Explain. These aren't random attacks, Zentai continued. The swarm is employing sophisticated military strategy that humans perfected through centuries of warfare. They're not just consuming worlds. They're waging a coordinated campaign. Impossible, Vexnar objected. The swarm is barely sentient. They operate on pure biological imperatives. Then how do you explain this? Zentai displayed more tactical analyses. Their movements show strategic planning, adaptation to council defenses, even psychological warfare by targeting civilian populations to spread terror. These are human tactics, refined through countless conflicts. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Council's peaceful species had no experience with such warfare. Their defensive strategies were based on containment and negotiation, useless against an enemy using advanced military doctrine. If what you say is true, Administrator Vek pulsed carefully, then we face an unprecedented threat. But how could the swarm have learned these tactics? That's a critical question, Zentai acknowledged. But right now, we need to understand these strategies to counter them. And there's only one species with the necessary experience. No. Vexnar's harmonics reverberated with alarm. You cannot suggest we contact the humans. Their violent nature is exactly what we need, Zentai finished. They've spent millennia developing counters to these exact tactics. They understand this type of warfare in ways we never can. She displayed more Earth records, military academies, strategic institutes, centuries of tactical evolution. Humans don't just practice warfare. They study it. They analyze past conflicts, develop new doctrines, wargame scenarios. They've created an entire science around combat. And you believe they would help us? Vek Tu asked. Based on my research, yes. Humans have a strong drive to protect others. They're particularly motivated to defend against overwhelming forces. Their history is full of smaller nations helping each other resist powerful aggressors. The Council's neural network hummed with rapid communication. Finally, Administrator Vek Iksu spoke. Your proposal is radical, Researcher Zentai. Contact with humans risks exposing peaceful worlds to their martial influence. But the swarm gives us no choice. We need their knowledge. However, Vek Iksu continued, we must proceed cautiously. No full diplomatic contact yet. Select a small group of human military experts. They must be carefully isolated and controlled. Zentai's filaments rippled with concern. With respect, Administrator, attempting to control humans usually backfires. They respond better to honest cooperation. Nevertheless, these are our terms. Choose your experts carefully, researcher. The fate of peaceful worlds may depend on their knowledge and our ability to contain it. As the council session ended, Zentai accessed Earth's current military databases. She needed experts who understood not just warfare, but its evolution through history. The council wanted to control the humans, but her research suggested that a different approach would be needed. Because if she was right about the swarm using human military doctrine, an even more disturbing question remained. How did they learn it? The answer, she suspected, would prove far more dangerous than humanity's warfare ever could. Dr. Sarah Chen woke in a sterile white room that definitely wasn't her university office. Her last memory was reviewing military archives for her latest book on tactical evolution. Now she found herself in what looked like a sci-fi movie set, complete with softly humming walls and strange lighting. Please remain calm, Dr. Chen, a melodic voice said. You are safe. Sarah sat up slowly, noting that 5 other humans were in similar rooms separated by transparent barriers. She recognized them. Dr. James Kumar, expert in guerrilla warfare, Colonel Maria Rodriguez, strategic theory specialist, Professor Ahmed Hassan, authority on ancient military history, Dr. Victor Petrov, psychological warfare analyst, and General Thomas Wright, retired NATO commander. I'm Dr. Zentai. The voice continued as a bizarre creature floated into view. It looked like a cross between a jellyfish and a fiber optic cable, with glowing filaments that rippled with changing colors. We apologize for the irregular nature of your recruitment. You mean kidnapping, Sarah said flatly. 3 generations of her family had served in various military forces. She wasn't easily rattled, even by alien abduction. A regrettable necessity, Zentai acknowledged. We face a crisis that requires your unique expertise. The alien activated a holographic display, showing massive swarms of biomechanical creatures devastating entire worlds. Sarah watched with professional interest as the swarm executed perfect flanking maneuvers and breakthrough attacks. That's a classic penetration offensive, Colonel Rodriguez noted from her cell. Like the German advance through the Ardennes in 1940. Exactly, Dr. Kumar added. But look at the follow-up exploitation. It's pure Mongol doctrine. Create panic, prevent reorganization, destroy infrastructure. The other experts joined in, dissecting the swarm's tactics with academic precision. Sarah noticed Zentei's filaments rippling with what seemed like surprise. You're analyzing this clinically, the alien said. I expected more emotional distress at seeing such destruction. We're military historians, Sarah explained. Our job is to understand warfare, not be horrified by it. Though I admit, seeing alien bugs using Earth tactics is disturbing. Those are definitely human strategies. Which should be impossible, General Wright growled. Unless someone taught them. Sarah finished. She turned to Zentei. How long has your civilization known about Earth? We only discovered humans recently, Zentei harmonized. But your question raises disturbing possibilities. The alien showed more tactical footage. The experts quickly identified dozens of human military doctrines. Defensive depth, tactical retreats, force concentration, even advanced psychological warfare techniques. They're not just using our tactics, Professor Hassan observed. They're using classified ones. Look at that infiltration pattern. That's from a restricted NATO exercise last year. Sarah's mind raced. Someone's been studying Earth's military development. Not just historical battles, but current doctrine. The swarm isn't naturally evolving these tactics. They're being programmed with them. A third party, Dr. Petrov mused. One with access to Earth's military secrets and the ability to implement them in alien biology. Zentei's filaments pulsed rapidly. The Council must be informed. But first, we need your help developing countermeasures. Will you assist us? The human experts exchanged looks. On one condition, Sarah said. No more cells. No more control attempts. If you want our help fighting an enemy using human tactics, you need to trust us. The Council ordered strict containment protocols. The Council doesn't understand humans, Sarah interrupted. Control us, and you'll get bare minimum cooperation. Treat us as allies, and you'll get everything we know. Your choice. Zentei was quiet for a long moment. Finally, the barriers disappeared. I've studied human history extensively. You're right. Trust will yield better results than control. The Council will have to adapt. As the other experts gathered around the tactical displays, Sarah studied their alien host. You know, she said quietly, for someone who's studied Earth's wars, you seem to understand something many humans don't. What's that? That understanding warfare isn't about promoting violence. It's about recognizing patterns, learning from mistakes, and ultimately, finding better ways to secure peace. Zentei's filaments glowed brighter. Perhaps that's why you were chosen. Not just for your knowledge of war, but for your understanding of its purpose. The group worked through the night, analyzing swarm tactics and developing counters. But in the back of Sarah's mind, a disturbing question lingered. Who was really behind the swarm's military evolution? The answer, she suspected, would force both humans and aliens to confront uncomfortable truths about the legacy of warfare in the cosmos. Sarah's hands flew across the alien interface, comparing swarm battle footage with classified Earth military operations. After 3 days of intensive analysis, a pattern had emerged that chilled her to the bone. Look at this, she called to Zentei, who floated nearby. The swarm's attack on the Ith colony. It's identical to a classified NATO exercise from 2023. Not similar, identical, down to the timing of each phase. Dr. Kumar leaned in, frowning. That's impossible. Those operational details were never made public. There's more, Sarah continued, pulling up multiple comparisons. Their breakthrough at Centauri Prime matches a classified Chinese naval doctrine, the orbital defense penetration, straight from Russian Space Force playbooks. Someone has access to everyone's military secrets. The research center they'd been given erupted with activity as the other experts confirmed Sarah's findings. Colonel Rodriguez cursed in Spanish as she recognized more patterns. "This isn't just current doctrine," Professor Hassan added, his academic calm cracking. "Some of these tactics are from abandoned research projects, ideas that were tested but never implemented. The swarm is using failed human military experiments." Zentai's filaments had turned a dark purple. Anxiety, Sarah had learned. The council must be informed. They already suspect humans of collaborating with the swarm. "That's ridiculous," General Wright snapped. "Why would we arm an alien species with our own tactics to use against other aliens we didn't even know existed?" Nevertheless, Zentai harmonized. "They're convening an emergency session. We must present our findings." Hours later, they faced the Galactic Council. The chamber buzzed with hostile harmonics as Sarah presented their analysis. "These identical tactical patterns prove someone has been studying Earth's military development," she explained. "Not just observing, but collecting classified data from multiple nations. And we're supposed to believe humans aren't responsible." Vexnar pulsed skeptically. "Your species' violent nature is exactly why we wouldn't do this," Sarah interrupted. "We understand warfare too well to give advanced military doctrine to an unknown alien force. It would be like giving nuclear weapons to chimpanzees." "An interesting analogy," a new voice said. A holographic figure appeared, humanoid but not human, with crystalline features and eyes that seemed to contain galaxies. "Perhaps because your species was once our equivalent of chimpanzees." The council chamber erupted in chaos. Zentai's filaments went nearly black. "A precursor. But they're just legends. We are quite real," the figure said. "And humanity has been our most successful experiment in controlled military evolution. The swarm is merely our attempt to replicate that success artificially." Sarah felt ice in her veins. "You've been manipulating Earth's conflicts, studying our warfare." "For millennia," the precursor confirmed. "Every major war, every military innovation. Subtle guidance here, strategic insights there. We helped shape humanity into the galaxy's most efficient warriors." "Why?" Zentai demanded. "The galaxy is vast and hostile. Most species evolve through peace, leaving them vulnerable. We seed warrior species to protect them. Humanity was our greatest success, until you began rejecting warfare in favor of peace. So you created the swarm," Sarah realized. "Gave them our tactics without our restraint. A more reliable weapon," the precursor agreed. "One that won't question orders or seek alternatives to conflict." The council members pulsed with fear, but Sarah noticed something in the tactical displays. "You made a mistake," she said. "You gave the swarm our tactics, but not our strategic evolution. They're using decades-old doctrines without the countermeasures we developed. You didn't understand that human warfare isn't just about violence. It's about adaptation, innovation, and ultimately, choice." The precursor's crystalline features hardened. "A flaw we're correcting. The swarm will continue to evolve, becoming the perfect warfare engine we intended humanity to be." "No," Sarah said firmly. "You've given us something far more valuable than weapons. You've given us proof that we're not alone in facing manipulation. The swarm isn't our enemy. They're victims of the same experimentation we were." She turned to the council. "You feared humanity's violent history. Now you know it wasn't entirely natural. But our choice to seek peace despite being engineered for war, that was entirely ours." The chamber hummed with discussion. Even Vexnar's hostile harmonics had softened. "An interesting perspective," the precursor said. "But it changes nothing. The experiment will continue. The swarm will evolve, and the galaxy will have its warriors, willing or not." As the hologram faded, Sarah met Zentai's gaze. "They're wrong about one thing," she said. "The galaxy already has its warriors. And we fight for peace, not someone else's experiment." The council chamber was silent, But Sarah saw something new in their bioluminescent patterns, hope tinged with the first glimmers of understanding. The real war wasn't against the swarm. It was against those who would turn both humans and aliens into weapons for their own ends. The Meridian system burned. The swarm's latest offensive had caught 3 council worlds completely unprepared, despite the defensive strategies Sarah and her team had developed. But something was different about this attack. "They're not using our tactics anymore," Sarah observed, studying the tactical displays. "The precursors are implementing something new." The command center buzzed with activity as both human experts and council species coordinated the defense. Professor Hassan pointed to a holographic display of the battle. "Look at the adaptation rate. They're evolving strategies in real time." A young Centaurian officer burst into the room, their crystalline form clouded with distress. "The Colonial Defense Force. They're breaking. They've never seen combat before. We're losing more ships to panic than enemy fire." Sarah exchanged looks with Colonel Rodriguez. They'd feared this might happen. The council species had no psychological framework for warfare. "Permission to join the front line," Rodriguez said to Zentai, who now served as liaison between humans and the council. "Your people need more than tactical advice. They need direct support." The council prohibited human involvement in actual combat. Zentai began. "Your people are experiencing combat trauma for the first time in millennia," Dr. Petrov interrupted. "We've spent centuries developing ways to cope with battlefield stress. Let us help." Zentai's filaments rippled with internal conflict before finally pulsing agreement. "Do what you must." Hours later, Sarah found herself on the bridge of a Centaurian destroyer, talking the shaking alien crew through their first taste of combat. "Fear is normal," she explained as the ship maneuvered through debris fields. "It means you're sane. The trick isn't not being afraid, it's acting despite fear." How do you handle it?" the Centaurian captain asked, their crystalline surface shifting with anxiety patterns. "We remember why we fight," Sarah said. "Not for glory or victory, but for something bigger. Look." She pointed to the tactical display showing civilian evacuation ships. "Those are the people you're protecting. Focus on them." Across the battlefield, her fellow experts were doing the same. Colonel Rodriguez had organized a mixed human-alien squadron that was actually pushing the swarm back. General Wright was coordinating with council admirals, teaching them centuries of hard-won wisdom about maintaining unit cohesion under fire. "Their neural networks are both a weakness and a strength," Dr. Petrov observed as he helped council medical teams treat shell-shocked soldiers. "They feel each other's trauma more intensely, but they can also share coping mechanisms more effectively." Professor Hassan had turned the command center into an impromptu classroom, teaching council strategists how to read battlefield psychology. "The swarm is trying to induce panic," he explained. "But panic is predictable. If you understand fear, you can use it." Dr. Kumar worked with ground forces, showing them how to maintain morale during retreats. "Fighting isn't just about winning," he told them. "Sometimes victory means keeping your force intact to fight another day." But it was Zentai who made the most surprising discovery. The alien researcher had been monitoring communications between council forces and noticed something remarkable. "The neural networks are adapting," she told Sarah during a brief respite. "Not just sharing trauma, but processing it. They're developing their own warrior's philosophy, distinct from both human warfare and their peaceful past." Sarah watched as a council squadron executed a perfect fighting retreat, protecting civilian ships while maintaining formation. "They're not just copying our tactics," she realized. "They're finding their own way to be warriors." "Is this not what you feared?" Zentai asked. "Peaceful species learning warfare." "No," Sarah said. "They're learning something more important, how to fight without losing themselves. It took humanity centuries to develop that wisdom. Your people are doing it in days." A tactical alert interrupted them. The swarm was launching another wave, but this time something was different. The council forces didn't panic. Their neural networks hummed with determination rather than fear. Battle meditation. A Centaurian officer explained, "We've adapted your human concept of unit cohesion to our neural capabilities. We fight as one, but each warrior chooses to stand." Sarah felt a profound shift in the battle's energy. The council species weren't becoming more like humans, they were becoming something new. Warriors who fought with perfect unity, but maintained their reverence for peace. Soldiers who understood violence, but chose to use it only in defense of others. The precursors wanted to create perfect warriors, she told Zentai. They never understood that true warriors aren't made through engineering or evolution. They're forged through choice, wisdom, and the determination to protect. As if to emphasize her point, the council fleet moved as one, their ships flowing through space in patterns that were neither human nor swarm, but something entirely new. They weren't just fighting, they were redefining what it meant to be warriors in their own unique way. And somewhere out there, Sarah knew, the precursors were watching. She hoped they were learning that true strength couldn't be engineered or forced. It had to be chosen, again and again, by those who understood both the necessity and the cost of standing against the darkness. The precursor's massive vessel materialized in the heart of council space, a crystalline structure that seemed to bend reality around it. On viewing screens across the combined fleet, the ancient beings made their announcement. "The experiment has reached its final phase," their leader declared, its form shifting between states of matter. "Humanity has proven resilient but unreliable. The swarm represents perfect, controlled evolution of warfare. Now they shall meet in combat, and we shall determine which approach is superior." Sarah stood on the bridge of the council flagship, surrounded by both human experts and alien allies. Through the neural interfaces they'd developed, she could feel the fear and determination rippling through the council species. "You've already lost," she announced to the precursor image. "The moment you revealed your manipulation, you gave us something stronger than any weapon, a common cause." The precursor's crystalline features shifted in what might have been amusement. "You believe unity can overcome raw power. The swarm now contains the accumulated military knowledge of 1,000 worlds. They are the perfect synthesis of biological evolution and tactical efficiency." "Perfect." Dr. Kumar stepped forward. "They're predictable. You gave them our tactics without understanding the context that created them, without the wisdom learned from failure." Through their neural link, Sarah felt something stirring in the swarm's collective consciousness. The council's biotechnology experts had been working to understand their communication patterns, and now, they're not just biological weapons, she realized. They're sentient beings. You engineered them for warfare, just like you tried to engineer humanity. But you couldn't eliminate their capacity for choice. The precursor's image flickered with what might have been concern. "The swarm follows our commands. They err." "Being used," Sarah interrupted. "Just like you used humanity's conflicts to study warfare. Just like you're using this confrontation to prove your theories." She opened a channel to the swarm's collective consciousness, transmitting memories of Earth's history, not just the battles, but the aftermath, the cost, the healing. "You want to see which approach to warfare is superior," she challenged. "Watch this." Through the council's neural network, enhanced by human understanding of psychology and communication, Sarah broadcast an offer to the swarm. Alliance. Not submission, not destruction, but partnership against those who had manipulated both species. The precursor's image distorted with alarm. "This is not the parameter of the experiment." "That's your weakness," Professor Hassan said. "You see everything as an experiment. You gave the swarm our tactical knowledge, but missed the most important lesson from human military history. The strongest alliances are forged between former enemies who recognize a common threat." The swarm's collective consciousness churned with new awareness. Through the neural link, Sarah felt their awakening, the realization that they had been created as weapons, just as humanity had been nudged toward warfare for millennia. "Your experiment failed," General Wright announced, Because you forgot the most basic principle of human warfare. Know your enemy. You made the swarm so perfect at following orders that you never considered they might choose to follow different ones. The first swarm ships began breaking formation, their biological technology interfacing with council neural networks. Not to attack, but to communicate. To choose. Impossible, the precursor leader declared. We engineered them for perfect obedience. Just like you tried to engineer humanity for perfect warfare. Sarah countered. How did that work out? Across the battlefield, more swarm units were linking with the council network, sharing their own experiences of manipulation and control. The precursor's perfect weapon was turning, not through force or superior tactics, but through something they had never considered: empathy. The experiment is terminated, the precursor announced. The swarm will be deactivated. Try it. Colonel Rodriguez challenged. Your control is already breaking. You gave them human military knowledge. That includes every rebellion, every revolution, every fight for freedom in our history. The precursor vessel's crystalline surface rippled with energy patterns. This defeats the purpose. We sought to determine the supreme form of warfare. And you proved something else entirely, Sarah said. The strongest force in the universe isn't warfare. It's the choice to end it. Through the neural network, she felt the swarm's collective decision crystallizing. Humanity had given them tactics, the council had given them connection, and together they had given them something the precursors never had: the wisdom to choose peace over perfection. The combined fleet, human, council, and now swarm, faced the precursor vessel, not as separate species, not as weapons or experiments, but as allies united against those who would deny them choice. The true war was about to begin, not the one the precursors had planned, but one they had never expected. A battle for freedom, fought not with tactics and weapons, but with understanding and unity against those who would treat sentient beings as laboratory specimens. And in that moment, Sarah knew humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy wasn't their warfare. It was their endless capacity to choose a different path. The battle against the precursors wasn't fought with weapons alone. As their crystalline vessel unleashed devastating energy weapons, the combined fleet responded with something more powerful: collective consciousness, enhanced by human tactical experience and council neural technology. The swarm, free from their programming, demonstrated warfare's ultimate evolution: the choice not to use it. Their biological technology, designed for destruction, instead formed living shields around civilian worlds. They absorbed the precursor's energy attacks and converted them into defensive barriers. They're adapting faster than the precursors can respond, Dr. Kumar observed from the command center. Not just tactically, but philosophically. Through the neural link, Sarah felt the transformation. The swarm's collective consciousness, once driven by artificial imperatives for conquest, now pulsed with something new: purpose. Not the purpose engineered into them, but one they had chosen. The experiment is invalid, the precursor leader announced, its crystalline form fragmenting with frustration. These results are meaningless, because they don't match your predictions, Professor Hassan challenged. That's the problem with treating warfare as a science experiment. The variables aren't just tactical. They're psychological, emotional, spiritual. The combined fleet moved in patterns that defied traditional military doctrine. Council ships flowed through space in perfect neural synchronization. Swarm units provided biological countermeasures to precursor weapons. Human tactical advisors coordinated it all, applying centuries of battlefield wisdom to this final evolution of warfare. You wanted to create perfect warriors, Sarah transmitted to the precursor vessel. But you never understood what that meant. A perfect warrior isn't someone who fights without question. It's someone who knows when not to fight, and what to fight for. The precursor vessel's defenses began to falter, not against weapons, but against understanding. The combined fleet wasn't trying to destroy them. They were surrounding them, containing them, offering them something they had never considered: the chance to learn rather than control. Through the neural network, Zentai shared her research on human history, not the battles, but the aftermath, the healing, the growth, the wisdom earned through suffering and choice. Your experiment failed, Sarah announced, but it created something far more valuable. Look at what we've become. Not weapons, not experiments, but allies, teachers, protectors. The precursor leader's crystalline form stabilized, showing what might have been curiosity. You would spare us. After our manipulation of your species, we're offering you the chance to evolve, Sarah replied. Like we did. Like the swarm did. Not through engineering or control, but through choice and understanding. The battle ended not with destruction, but with transformation. The precursors, faced with the ultimate evolution of their experimental subjects, chose to learn rather than control. Their vessel powered down, and for the first time in their ancient existence, they prepared to be students rather than manipulators. In the cycles that followed, the galaxy changed. The Council learned that understanding warfare was essential to maintaining peace. The swarm, free to choose their path, became protectors of developing civilizations, and humanity found its true role, not as warriors, but as teachers who helped others process and grow from conflict. Dr. Sarah Chen established the Galactic Institute for Military History and Peace Studies. Its mission wasn't to spread warfare, but to understand it, to learn from it, to ensure that the wisdom earned through conflict would serve the cause of peace. The greatest victory, she told her first class of mixed species students, isn't winning a war. It's choosing to end it, not through force or surrender, but through understanding and growth. Zentai, now the Council's chief xenoanthropologist, added her own observation. The precursors thought they were engineering the perfect warriors. Instead, they created the perfect opportunity for different species to learn from each other. The sworn representative, a biological construct that interfaced with both neural networks and human speech, completed the thought. We were designed for warfare, but we chose to fight for peace. That choice, more than any tactical advantage, was our true evolution. As Sarah looked out at her students, council species, reformed swarm units, even young precursors eager to learn a new way, she remembered her family's military history. Generations of soldiers who fought so that future generations might know peace. We all carry the capacity for warfare, she told them. But we also carry the wisdom to choose differently. That's not weakness, it's the ultimate strength. And in the vast galaxy, where countless species had evolved through peace or conflict, a new understanding emerged. True power wasn't in the ability to wage war, but in the wisdom to prevent it. Not through control or engineering, but through choice, understanding, and the courage to learn from those who were once enemies. The anxiety that had once greeted humanity's warfare had transformed into something else. Hope. Hope that even the darkest aspects of a species' history could lead to light. Hope that evolution wasn't just about survival, but about growth. Hope that the greatest battles could be won not through force, but through unity. And in that hope, the galaxy found its true defense against warfare. The choice to understand rather than fear, to learn rather than destroy, to unite rather than divide. It was an evolution that no experiment could have engineered, one that had to be chosen, again and again, by those who understood both the cost of conflict and the price of peace.